students, now we are continuing with the same lesson, that is the lesson number 4, the rat trap from Flamingo. So it was late in December, darkness increased, the danger as also his gloom and despair. So there was the period of a December and it was a winter. So the darkness fell quickly and he started to feel sad and he started to lose his hopes also. He sat down on the ground as he was quite tired. So he was feeling very much tired and he sank down. He heard the sound of hammer strokes. So at the same moment, he heard the sound of a hammer stroking. He summoned all his strength, he gathered all his strength and got up and staggered in the direction of the sound. So he started to walk towards the direction of a sound. He reached a forge. Forge means nothing but only a furnace, where the master smith and his helper sat near the furnace waiting for the pig iron to be ready to put on an anvil. So they were doing their work and they were waiting for that pig iron to be ready. There were many sounds. Big billows groaned. Okay, so what kind of sounds were there? Big billows groaned, burning coal cracked, the fire boy shoveled charcoal, and the great deal of clatter. So, and the waterfall also rolled. A sharp north wind whipped the rain against the brick tiled roof. So all such type of sounds were there, and because of these noises, the blacksmith did not notice that a man had opened the gate and entered the forge until the stranger stood close up to the furnace. So this is how they were busy with their works, and also because of that noise they couldn't hear the sound of that peddler. The blacksmith glanced only casually and indifferently in the intruder with a long beard. So there was a glance, means he looked at the peddler without any kind of a interest. The person with a long beard, dirty rag, and with a bunch of rat traps dangling on his chest. So that was what the look of that peddler. The peddler asked for permission to stay. So as there was a cold outside, he wanted to stay in that furnace. The master blacksmith nodded a hearty consent and without saying a word. So he allowed him to stay there without saying a word. Just then the iron master, who owned the Ramsjow iron mill, came into the forge on one of his nightly rounds of inspection. So there came the owner of that iron mill. The iron master saw that a person in a dirty torn clothes had moved so close to the furnace that steam was rising from his wet rags. So that man was sitting very close to the furnace, and because of that the wet clothes, from that the steam was coming out. He walked close up to him, looked him over very carefully. He wanted to get know that who the person actually. Then he tore off his coat, tore off his hat, and which had a wide flexible brim. He get a better view of his face, and he called him Nils Olaf, and wondered how he looked. So he identified that person as a Nils Olaf. The man with the rat trap had never before seen the iron master at Ramsjow and did not even know what his name was. So the peddler was meeting that iron master very first time. He thought that iron master might perhaps throw his old acquaintance a couple of kroners. So he hoping that the person that iron master must have mistaken that the acquaintance with me, and in the hope that he will get some kroners from the iron master, he kept quiet. So he did not tell him that he was mistaken, and the iron master observed that he should not have resigned from the regiment. So he was thinking that he was the person from the regiment, that iron master. Then he asked the stranger to come home with him. The tramp did not agree. He thought of the 30 kroner. Going up to the manor house would be like throwing himself into the lion's den. So he was not ready to go with the iron master to his home. The ironmaster assumed that he felt embarrassed because of his miserable clothing. So he was thinking that there must be the hesitation only because of his miserable condition or a clothing. He said to his that his wife Elizabeth was dead, his boys were abroad, and only his oldest daughter was with him. So he explained that there is no one in his house, only a daughter it is there with him. He invited the stranger to spend the Christmas with them. The stranger said no thrice, so he denied for the 3 times. The ironsmith told James Tom, the blacksmith, that the captain owned stall preferred to stay with him that night. He laughed to himself and went away. So the peddler, that ironmaster assumed the peddler as the captain owned stall. Half an hour later, the sound of carriage wheels was heard outside the forge. The ironmaster's daughter came there. Now there was the ironmaster's daughter, followed by a valet. Valet means a servant or an attendant, carrying a big fur coat. He was holding a big fur coat in his hand. She introduced himself as the Edla Wilmason. She noticed that the man was afraid. She thought that either he had stolen something or else he had escaped from jail. She, however, assured him that he would be allowed to leave them just as freely as he had come. So she also invited him to come along with her. She addressed him as a captain. She called him as a captain and requested him to stay with them over the Christmas Eve. So they wanted to celebrate the Christmas Eve with peddler. She said this in such a friendly manner that the Rattrap peddler agreed to go with her. So she was talking with him with a very friendly. So the peddler became ready to go with her. The fur coat was thrown over his rags and he followed the young lady to the carriage. On the way, the peddler thought why he had taken that fellow's money and he was sitting in the trap and would never get out of it. So while he was moving towards their house, he was thinking about the person and the money stolen by him. The next day was Christmas Eve. The ironmaster came into the dining room for breakfast. He thought of his old regiment comrade whom he had met so unexpectedly. So he was very happy that he met one of his colleagues of the regiment. He felt satisfied and talked of feeding him well and giving him some honorable job. So he was planning about him. His daughter remarked that last night she did not notice anything about him to show that he had once been an educated man. So there was no any kind of a symptoms that he is a educated person. The ironmaster asked her to have patience and let him get clean and dressed up. So ironmaster told her that wait for a while. Then she would see something different and the tramp manner would fall away from him with the tramp clothes. So he wanted to change his getup and wait for a while. So students, here we are going to stop. We'll continue the next in the next part. Thank you.